The response we get is very varied. It changes from year to year. We will have a lot of people joining us on the night of the event, but we also find there's a lot of support online as well, especially nowadays in the digital world in which we live in. We find lots of people tend to share the photos of their candles or their loved ones on social media as well. At the moment, a lot of the work we carry out as a charity is very much behind the scenes. We do provide a lot of support to families behind the scenes. Guidance, obviously we've been through losses ourselves as well, so it's something we can empathize with. So we do also deal with the families and relatives of people who have endured a loss, to try and help them in their responses as well, and how they approach the subject, because sometimes it's okay not to say anything. It's sometimes better not to say anything than maybe put your foot in it and say something which you weren't supposed to say. So our support in that respect goes towards the person experiencing the loss, and it can also extend to family members as well.
Do you find that there's still a taboo when you talk about losing a baby, even in Jib, which is such a small community?
I think there very much is so, and for me one of the most poignant things that happens sometimes at the Wave of Light is when you have older ladies who have lost a baby a very long time ago and haven't really felt able to talk about that, and that's really quite meaningful when they come and they open up perhaps for the first time in 30 or 40 years about the loss that they've had, that they've never felt able to really acknowledge, because times were different then and they weren't really encouraged to speak about that baby. You know, it was very much a just move on and nothing's happened sort of mentality. So I think there is still elements of, especially with the earlier losses, people feeling that it doesn't mean the same thing for others who haven't really been in that situation, or it's less tangible for them to understand that really felt like a real child to them, a real loss. You do still have, unfortunately, sometimes those comparisons of, oh, but if you're further along then it's worse, or if it's a death after their birth, then that's worse. And you know, we're not in the business of comparing grief. Grief is a very personal experience, and we wouldn't dare to judge what that means to a particular person.
And I note from your press release that BabySTEPPS is investing in training to support professionals. Training for counsellors is something that's been mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So for the last few years we have invested in training for professionals, for example at the hospital, those who are delivering the bad news, whether that be at a scan or having to support a family through the birth process. This year we've shifted, and it's more about the postnatal support for that family. So we're offering training to counsellors. It's an accredited training, 16 hours of training, and we're happy to contribute towards funding for that, because we know that a lot of people following a loss, whether immediately after or some years down the line, some of those issues can resurge. So we feel that it's helpful to ensure that we can empower those who might be supporting those families. We do know from the data that a lot of people who experience even an earlier miscarriage, whether themselves or their partner, are quite likely to have symptoms of PTSD later down the line. So we know that is something that we need to have within our consciousness and within our capacity to support.